A large number of engines with a displacement of 2.0 to 5.0 liters were offered for the legendary 5. The most powerful 8-cylinder engine went to the BMW M5 E39 sports version. The first models received a turbocharged diesel V6 M51, equipped with a distribution injection pump. Then a 3-liter version appeared, and later a 2.5-liter version. At the same time, the power unit received common rail injection, which increased the dynamic characteristics of the engine, removing from 163 to 193 horsepower. For connoisseurs of economical and quiet driving, a 4-cylinder M47 engine with a power of 136 horsepower has been developed, in which only injection has acquired a distribution injection pump. Compared to other motors, they are highly reliable and have a minimal number of soars. One of the features of the gasoline engine line for the E39 is the absence of a 4-cylinder version. The manufacturer offers a choice of 6-cylinder M52 engines. This designation was used for pre-restyling models, with a volume of 2.0, 2.5, 2.8 liters. It is worth saying that the units from this line were equipped with a control unit with 2 lambda probes, the replacement of which would cost $200 to $400. An early version of this engine also featured a Vanos phase shifter, which did not cause any major problems. But the owners of the updated M52-2 had a hard time. The presence of couplings on both camshafts led to a number of problems. The service life of the sealing rings did not exceed 200,000 km. Malfunctions were observed in the operation of control valves. Needle bearings failed, and couplings jammed after some time. The manufacturer solved the problem by releasing a Vanos repair kit. When the company introduced the E39 restyling, fans also discovered an updated M54 engine that received an electronic throttle. They have practically no real weak points. The only serious thing that can be highlighted is increased oil consumption for units with a mileage of more than 300,000 km. And intolerance to elevated temperatures. Typically, oil begins to leak out through the valve stem seals. They harden due to high temperatures, so timely cleaning of the radiator is a necessary measure. Also, you should monitor various oil leaks. There are many places from which oily liquid begins to leak over time. But there are also very reliable components, for example, a cylinder piston group, gas distribution chains. Owners of a manual transmission do not have to worry about the technical condition of the transmission. For the E39, 2 versions of the transmission were used, a classic 5-speed gearbox and a less common 6-speed gearbox called Getrag. And if the 6-speed unit withstands any test, then with the 5-speed unit you will still have to be more attentive to service maintenance. Most often, shaft bearings fail, which leads to difficulties in engaging gears, and in some cases even leaving a gear while driving. An unmaintained manual transmission may, over time, begin to emit an unpleasant hum, and strong vibration may appear on the gear knob. This is a wake-up call to visit a service center to repair the gearbox or purchase a contract transmission. It is not uncommon to see a leak on the gear shift rod. Owners may also experience transmission jerking during acceleration or gear changes, or rattling noises, which are usually caused by failure of dual-mass flywheels. Their service life was about 200,000 km. A replacement will cost the owner at least $500. Many craftsmen have attempted to replace the dual-mass flywheel with a single-mass one, but in the end they were upset, since the replacement led to a strong hum. Each engine, which was intended for the 5 in the E39 body, was available in conjunction with an automatic transmission. To manufacture the automatic transmission, the German company collaborated with 2 partners, the American company General Motors and the German company ZF. What kind of gearbox was installed in the car remained a mystery to the owner. The manufacturer did not provide any markings. Our YouTube channel contains reviews of both versions of the gearbox. According to the experience of the owners, the transmission from American partners is less durable. Active starts from a standstill, rare or complete absence of oil changes are not digested by the GM transmission. This is the gearbox that BMW said was filled with oil for its entire service life. The owners trusted the brand, but in vain. When it was already clear that the oil needed to be changed, the new ATF only made things worse. All wear products rose to the top and clogged the valve body. The automatic transmission from ZF was used for quite a long time without any problems. The only maintenance I had to do was change the oil every 60,000 km. And do not subject the automatic transmission to unnecessary overloads in the form of donut torsion and slipping. The expansion tank requires replacing the plug at least once every 3 years of vehicle operation. Otherwise, the pressure in the system may float. The tank itself will have to be replaced only if the fitting breaks off from it. After restyling, the E39 was equipped with quick-release pipe connections, which eventually crack and require replacement. Long service life also affects the condition of plastic adapters. A factory radiator sooner or later becomes unusable, deforming under the influence of a number of factors. First of all, high pressure in the system affects it, as a result of which swelling of the metal can be observed in some places. The lower part of the radiator also suffers, namely the areas opposite the bumper air intake. Dirt, dust, and fluff accumulate here, causing the radiator to overheat and sag. It is very rare to come across a working fan installed in the front part of the radiator. The motor is located in such a way that a large amount of water and dust gets on it, which is why it quickly fails. The situation is similar with speed resistors. As soon as you find fogged areas of power steering fluid, change the reservoir. By the way, quite often the power steering pipes leak. The anti-lock braking system, which prevents wheel locking during braking, is equipped with a special control unit. Unfortunately, the German engineers did not choose the best place for its location. Due to its proximity to the exhaust manifold, the block gets quite hot, which causes the solder on the wires to break down. In general, the repair does not cause any trouble and is carried out quite quickly. For the 5 in the E39 body, BMW used several types of ABS sensors. One of them is an inductive sensor, which is highly reliable. It was installed on cars until 1998. Later, the manufacturer will come to the use of sensors that use the Hall effect for operation. They last a little less, which is due to the fact that the magnetic tape wears out due to contamination. All cars, regardless of the year of manufacture, received headlight range control units that were not of the best quality. Over time, the plastic from which correctors are made breaks down without any reason. Owners have to change the part. For the manufacture of the front suspension on the BMW E39, McPherson struts were used. The upper part of the shock absorber is supported by a support with a bearing. Cars from the German company produced in the 90s are famous for not having the most reliable shock absorber struts. This problem also affected this model, but overall there is nothing critical. From the factory, the shock absorber support area is a flat surface. If the owner ignored the need to replace the support bearings for a long time, the platform would bend. But even in this case, you should not expect serious problems. On versions of the 5 with engines of 3 liters and above, larger diameter brake discs were installed from the factory, which were paired with cast iron calipers. Quite quickly, the calipers became covered with rust, which forced the owners to change the brake system pads every 2 replacements. Ignoring the problem led to the part jamming or improper wear of the discs. The 8-cylinder M62 engine had a liquid-cooled generator. In those years, it was quite an expensive pleasure for the owners, because the price for a new part varied from $400 to $700. Although the service life of the factory part is 250,000 km, the lack of analogs and the possibility of repair could not but sadden. Today, such a generator can be repaired, the price of which is about $90. Unfortunately, here too, German engineers forced E39 owners to become frequent guests of the service center. The suspension arms are made of aluminum, the suspension joints and stabilizer bushings are not durable, and the original silent blocks were out within 1 year. Often the shock absorbers could jam at the moment of compression, which was especially common in sub-zero temperatures. The E39's rack is also quite a weak point. After some time of using the car, you will hear unpleasant knocking sounds from the steering rack. It's good that there are no difficulties with repairs. By the way, BMW uses 2 types of steering racks, classic and with servotronic mechanism. A feature of the second is the presence of a special valve, which, depending on the speed, makes the steering wheel either light or heavy. If the valve becomes unusable, then the former lightness of the steering wheel disappears. But in the more powerful V8, the rack was replaced by a gearbox with a trapezoid, which turned out to be less reliable and added problems to the owner. The rear part of the suspension was also not particularly durable. Silent blocks also require annual replacement. The rear stabilizer mounting bracket is often destroyed under load.